Okay, go.
Chapter 20, Prem Ashram. In October 1926, Meher Baba closed the school and had all of the recently built structures at Meherabad, except for the Makan-e-Khas, the Mandali's residence, dismantled. He cited the quarreling, disobedience, and religious bigotry among the men Mandali, but
Oh,
also said all these buildings are just the scaffolding for my work, and the scaffolding is unnecessary once the real structure is completed. Having said at first that he wanted to travel in Persia, Baba made provision for the students and patients and sold at auction all the goods and materials. Khan Saheb, who arranged it, found himself buying back, much to his surprise, many of the items Gulmai had donated over the years without his knowledge. Rustam was the most upset at Baba leaving Meherabad, but was reconciled after one of Baba's illuminating discourses. At a meeting on 20 November, which Shireen Mai, Daulamasi, and Gulmai attended from the women's side, Baba said that he was tired and wanted to go to Bombay. However, 4 days later, he left for Lonavala with 20 men and women. Imagine having an entourage like that, Tina.
wow.
He took with him a locked metal trunk that contained his secret book. The women's group now consisted of Daulat Bai and her two daughters, Mehera and Franey, with Nadja, Small Khorshid, and Big Khorshid. Rustam and his two sons were to follow, and Shireen Mai and Mani were also invited. Lonavala is a scenic spot, perched among the Ghats, the hills, halfway between Pune and Bombay. They stayed in a rented bungalow 2 miles from the city, where they did not have to cook because their meals were brought from outside. Baba played cricket with the Mandali in a large garden, while the women watched from the veranda of the bungalow. Baba did not mind. We knew Baba would not like it if we young girls were in front, Mehera said. So the elders stood in front and we were at the back, peeking at Baba playing cricket. 10 days later, the group moved to a suburb of Bombay called Santa Cruz, where a two-story house of a wealthy Banya, a Marwari grocer, had been arranged. The house had a broad kitchen and a large over-furnished drawing room filled with tacky, ornate furniture. That's cute that they use that.
I didn't know they had that word back in those days.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so either. Ornate furniture, decorated with tiny mirrors, though tacky might have meant, actually sticky in the humidity. Ornate furniture decorated with tiny mirrors. The women stayed upstairs, but they did not find the floor plan convenient, as the toilets were far from the bedrooms. There was also a bathing room upstairs where Baba shaved and washed. When Baba came out of the toilet, Mera was to pour water over his hands as he washed. Once in Santa Cruz, Baba told her to pour it over his feet also, and then dry them. When I did this, Baba embraced me, she remembered. After a few days in Bombay, Baba told the men that they would have to find work for themselves or they would become lazy. Rather than find outside employment, they decided to manufacture matches at home, the materials for which came from a nearby factory. Baba, too, joined in this activity. Mera did not get to see Baba making matches, although she would have liked to, because the matches were made downstairs and she stayed mostly upstairs with the other women. Their room did have a terrace from which they could watch people going to a nearby church. We had fun watching all the Christians in fancy dresses going on the road. Dowlat Mai and Naja cooked downstairs for Baba and the Mandali, but Baba would come upstairs to have his meals in their room, and occasionally at other times to tell the women something. A seat was made for him on the floor with a big cushion propped against the wall. Baba's lunch was prepared separately, and he ate separately as well. Every day, a local bakery delivered fresh brun pau, which are crusty rolls, in large sacks. The girls spread a white cloth on the floor in the kitchen and emptied the sacks onto it. Seeing the nice, hot, crisp rolls, I just wanted to sit down and eat it, said Mera. You have no idea. We were young and so hungry. I knew we couldn't eat it then, as it was for dinner. I never put one bit in my mouth. I was tempted to break off some and eat it, but it was for later. I had to control myself. By dinner time, it wasn't crisp. We had to eat dal and rice for lunch. In the evening, when the bread was stale and soft, we had to eat it with a vegetable. I still remember that feeling of longing to eat that bread. I guess if we longed for God enough, as much as we longed for fresh bread, we'd be God realized by now. We had to empty them, the sacks out, look at the rolls and go away. Hearing that Babajan was drawing large crowds in Pune and making herself conspicuous by riding around in a tonga, Baba said that it was a sign she would soon drop her body and that he should be as close to her boundaries as possible. On 23 December, Rustam arrived from Ahmednagar and suggested that Baba return to Meherabad. Surprisingly, he accepted this offer, and the following night, having spent 20 days in Bombay, Baba left on the Delhi Express for Meherabad, where he arrived the next day, having been gone only a month. And the asterisk, in Santa Cruz, also several times, Baba became furious and told the women to leave. He sent them away with Dina Talati, who related, Baba used to order us to take the cooked food, utensils, and our beddings and go to Chanji's cinema house, where we were told to stay at the back of the stage. Baba inevitably gave this order in the evening, and we usually reached the cinema just as the first show was over and the second show was about to begin. I used to feel so embarrassed because I would always be dressed fashionably, while the women Mandali would have their heads and foreheads covered with their saris pulled over their faces. It was a peculiar sight for the passers-by, who often passed various snide comments about our group as we were passing. No sooner had we reached the cinema, however, Baba would send one of the Mandali with a message from him telling us to have our food and then return immediately to Santa Cruz.
Hmm.
From Santa Cruz, Franny and her children returned to Ahmednagar, and Shireen Mai and Mani to Pune. Small Khorshid had to leave for Irani Mansion, as her father was ill and wanted her home. Since Khorshid's mother, Sunamasi, was not with them in Santa Cruz, Baba ordered Daulat Mai to escort Khorshid home on the train and see that she reached there safely. Khorshid was sad about leaving Baba, but had to obey. Baba promised to call her back. If you obey me, it is just like you are staying with me, he said kindly. Although she was comfortable at home and had better things to eat, Khorshid longed to stay with Baba permanently. On the train, she could not stop herself from weeping. Don't cry, Daulat Mai said, trying to console her. Baba will call you back. Khorshid was weeping so much that some women on the train thought that Daulat Mai was Khorshid's mother, taking her to her in-laws. Others opined that Daulat Mai was Khorshid's mother-in-law, taking Khorshid to her house. A month later, Baba did call Khorshid back to Meherabad. The rest of the women who had returned to Meherabad with Baba stayed once again in the post office, while Baba was back in the Jopti. The men were in the old Dharam Shala, formerly the mess quarters. A boys' school was reopened in the family quarters in Arangaon, and the women resumed their usual ashram routine. They had to wash their clothes, sweep, dust, cook, and so on without paid servants. Although Walu did come from Arangaon to help, Baba would come to the post office every day, eat with the women, and spend 10 or 15 minutes relaxing. But there were some changes. On 1 January 1927, Baba stopped writing and using the slate. With the slate, the women had found it easy to read what Baba was trying to say. How would they understand him now? How will he convey his thoughts to us? They wondered apprehensively. The first few days, Baba would point to letters in the newspaper, and from this, the alphabet board evolved. Mehera could read Baba's board, but she could not do it quickly. Baba, please, a bit slower, she would say. So Baba did it very slowly for her, spelling out each word. Besides the board, Baba also used gestures. For example, his sign for women was bangles, and for men, mustaches. His sign for Rustam, who was a good cricketer, was swinging a cricket bat and sometimes driving a car. These signs could also mean the letter R. How they get R out of swinging a cricket bat or driving a car, I do not know. The same sign followed by an after gesture would mean the letter S, as it follows R. Certain words stood for certain letters. Ear was for E, I was for I, and so on. Sometimes Baba went so fast that Mehera became confused and would say E for I and I for ear. Baba, please go slower, she would finally say. I can't follow what you mean. And Baba would sweetly oblige. Baba discussed establishing a permanent school with facilities for boarders in the meantime. On 1 March, a primary school for villagers and the few children staying at Meherabad was opened in the old Dharamshala. Baba again began grinding corn and other grains with a small hand mill attached to the top of the table cabin, where he was now spending the night.
Do you want me to continue?
Sure, go ahead, Teen, thanks.
The table cabin was near the Dooney, and once while Baba was there, the women managed to peek at him through a chink in the Tata compound. I didn't see Baba grinding, but I did see Baba sweep the place with a very small broom, Mehera said. There was no flagstone around the Dooney then, only stamped earth. After grinding the flour, Baba sent it to the women with instructions for them to prepare bhakti millet chapati for him. Baba also told them to cook methi, fenugreek leaves, and they covered the dish and sent it to him. And for some days he ate only this. Once the bell rang that lunch was for men and children was required early. Once the bell rang, lunch was for the men and children was required early. 1 pot of rice, not quite done in the middle, as Nadia had not stirred it properly. Baba was upset that the boys might get a stomachache. He sent for Nadia and pushed her and warned her to be more careful in the future. It was decided that the existing school in the old Dharamshala would be shifted to the family quarters, and the new Meher Ashram school with boarding facilities would be located in its place. The Meher Ashram officially opened on May 1st. It was to be a school primarily for spiritual education, with boys attending from far away as Persia. The Hazrat Babajan Girls' School, which had been in Arangown with a woman teacher, was shifted to the post office. From this day also, Guskaji was put on silence, which he maintained for the rest of his life. Oh, wow. He died in 1957. He was ordered to sleep on the veranda of Baba's Jopti and to keep aloof from the other mandali, as well as to tend to the flower garden. To make room for the girls' school, 5 women moved out of the post office and into the bathroom building, where they stayed for a month. When they first came to Meherabad 3 years before. They now included Dowlat Mai, 44, and 4 younger women, Mehera, 20, Naja, 19, Big Khorshid, 25, and Small Khorshid, 17. Since the bathroom building consisted of 2 rooms with an arch between the back rooms, where Dowlat Mai and Naja and Big Khorshid slept, was used for a kitchen. Mehera and Small Khorshid slept in the front room, Khorshid by the door and Mehera toward the middle. The building had no proper windows, but high up were ventilators. If they stood on their tiptoes, they could see out. Both the back and the front doors were kept open to allow the breeze and light to enter. Since people coming for darshan could look in, Baba had a Tata compound erected as well. The partition of the Tata was put up on the front side so that the path and the main road could not be seen, though the women were never went in front. At the back, a large space was enclosed like a compound with another barricade. Trying to picture it. The Tata sheets were staggered to form an entrance, but there was no need for a gate. The women could now relax and enjoy the privacy they had as the post office. Khorshid's father, Kaikushru Masi, kept watch, staying with his wife Sunamasi in a temporary cabin of Tata walls and a tin roof near the bathroom building. 3 other night watchmen were also employed every half hour from different points around Lower Meherabad. A gong would sound and they would cry out, and a cry would go out. Number 1, all is well. Then another one would shout, number 2, all is well, and so on. The women felt quite safe. Everyone slept on mattresses on the floor without mosquito nets, but Mehera again did not remember ever being troubled by mosquitoes. One night, though, she felt something prick her in the middle of her back. She awoke, wondering how a needle could have gotten into her bed. It had poked her so hard. She got up and saw that it was a tiny scorpion in her mattress. The others woke up and made a big fuss about it, killed the scorpion, and tossed it outside. It was the first time Mehera had ever been stung by a scorpion. Fortunately, the scorpion was not large and the pain was not much. She was able to fall back asleep, and by morning, the pain was gone. Once during the night, Khorshid felt as if someone were choking her. The same thing happened the following night. She became frightened and told Baba. All right, he said, I will see about it. And it stopped. Although he never told them what it was, they guessed it had been a ghost. They had no furniture inside the rooms, just shelves near the fireplace for grains and spices. In one corner, 2 small brick fireplaces had been built. Above these were brackets on which the utensils and vessels hung. Since there was no chimney, ashes and smoke filled their eyes as they cooked. Baba ate with them in the bathroom building. So in one corner of the front room, they made a place for him on the floor. A thin mattress was placed along the wall with a big, thick cushion at the back. In the opposite corner, a curtain was hung from the ceiling, behind which they took a bath, seated on a broad wooden stool. The curtain was pulled back at night so that there would be more room for their bedding. Baba also bathed in this bathroom, Mehera said. The thick curtain was closed so tightly so that no breeze should blow inside and make Baba cold. Winter water for his bath was heated over the fireplace. He always wanted 5 or 6 pails of water. He poured the water over himself. We heard him splashing from the outside. He loved water. I was in charge of his things, which were kept in his trunk and in our room. So I would lay out his clean clothes, sadra, chadi, boxer shorts, and towel. Baba's trunk and cooking utensils were kept inside the bathroom building, but due to a lack of space, their own trunks with their good saris and other belongings had to be kept outside. There was just room enough for us to cook and sleep. In the monsoon time, when it rained, they had to run outside to bring their trunks and pile them on top of one another in the corner. It was a bit of an inconvenience. It was a bit inconvenient. When the rain stopped, they put out their trunks again. You want to take over? Eugene?
They washed their clothes outside, and they had outdoor toilets in the compound. The same iron toilets that the British had used. The Tata was built flush with the back of the toilets so that the men could come to clean them, that is, empty the iron pans, from behind the Tata without entering the women's compound. Walu was with them during the day, sweeping the earthen floor of the bathroom building and spreading liquid cow dung over it. The usual practice, since it happens to be an effective antiseptic. As usual, they were not to leave their compound. Baba did not want them to feel cooped up. So for exercise, he had a badminton court made inside the large compound. Boundary lines were drawn and a net put up. Baba played with them the first time to get them interested in the game. He told them they must play for at least 15 minutes or a half hour every day after their work, whenever they had time. They did not like to play badminton in the hot sun, so they played in the evening when the sun was setting. They were also permitted to play cards for relaxation, but they still had the order of no reading or writing. During this time, Khorshid Pastakia and Pilmai from Karachi, the Gadakar family from Pune, and Chuggan Master's family came to stay at Meherabad. They were each given their own corner in the post office, since the girls' school had been moved opposite the post office. The veranda, too, was divided for their use. Ramju's wife, Khatijah, along with her infant son, Qassam, stayed with the women in the bathroom building. Qassam was an attractive child, fair with dark pink lips, but delicate in health. The new arrivals were expected to pitch in, but Khatijah proved not very helpful. She had come to Meherabad for a rest, not to work, and stayed for only a month. Gulmai came to Meherabad most mornings and stayed for a few hours before returning to Ahmednagar. Rustam and Franey had moved back to Kushru quarters in March, and Franey visited weekly. Rustam was now the manager of the Mandali in Lower Meherabad and would accompany his mother. In June, Baba decided to move the Meher Ashram to Meherabad Hill into the old water tank building, where he had been in seclusion. With difficulty, the Mandali succeeded in knocking holes through the thick stone walls to construct two doors, one to the east room and one to the west room, so that one no longer had to climb through the window to get in. On 30 June, the Meher Ashram was shifted to these quarters, and the fully accredited Hazrat Babajan High School was moved to the vacated family quarters. Baba also moved into a small bamboo sheet room on the hill west of the water tank that had been constructed in May. In July, Baba had a pit dug in this room, and in August he began spending the night there. At one point, Baba slept outside the room. The wind blew so fiercely that his bed had to have thick curtains of sheets hung round. It to protect him from the cold. Only later did the men and women Mandali learn that this crypt room would one day become his tomb. During the next 10 months, Baba did not come down the hill very much, as he was involved in supervising the boys and dispensing to them the wine of his divine love. When he did come down, it was in a rickshaw pulled by the boys or the Mandali. Once from afar, Mehera saw Baba sitting in this rickshaw being pulled by 2 or 3 boys. Baba looked very beautiful in his rickshaw with his dark hair and comely coat. Because she had known him since her childhood, Small Khorshid was always outspoken with Baba. And once when Baba came to their rooms after a long absence, she asked him, "Why don't you come to us? You visit the boys in the Mandali, then why not here?" Baba said, "If you follow my orders strictly, I will come." "Tell us what you want us to do," said Khorshid. Baba gave them certain orders, such as to put on their warm coats and jackets in the evenings. The order seemed simple enough, yet it was not always easy to obey 100%. Sometimes, if they did not feel cold, they would forget. When Baba next visited, Khorshid reminded him of his promise. We are doing everything you have told us for so long, she complained. Now you should remember what you said. Baba agreed and began coming more regular. Once Baba had the whim to eat bujiyas if they could be made in 17 minutes. The women rushed to get the stove ready and prepare them in given time. Baba watched their efforts, ate some, and then left. The women saved the rest for later, as he might ask for them. They had learned how to do things quickly and to be cautious with leftovers so as not to upset Baba. Baba had now been silent for more than 2 years, and once when he came to their quarters, Mehera asked when they would hear his sweet voice again. When my work finishes, Baba answered.
Mm.
When Baba was staying up the hill, he ate only once a day, and the women too ate only once. In the morning, though, they had tea made with milk. In the afternoon, rice and dal. And in the evening, coffee with milk. Baba's tea and lunch were sent up the hill to him. They cooked a little vegetable for Baba, either spinach or cauliflower, the only two vegetables he liked. Spinach has got tons of potassium in it. It's very good. The only two vegetables he liked, but none for themselves. Any leftover vegetables sent back from Baba was put in their dal. Mehera never actually saw Baba with the Prem Ashram boys, but twice on 21 and 23 September 1927, Baba took them up the hill in Adi's car to see the Prem Ashram. The boys were not present at the time as they were eating under the shed. Baba took the women on a tour, showing them the dormitory where the children slept with a trunk next to each bed. They also saw the temporary sheds where the children had their lessons and ate.
I see Rosalie is here. Would you like to take over?
Yeah, I'll read some. Yeah. Gulmai and Franny were the only women allowed to go up the hill, and that too only occasionally, if they had something specific to discuss with Baba. On 4 October, soon after Franny returned to Ahmednagar from a visit to Meherabad, her third child, a girl, was born, named Mehera-Meher, after her aunt. She would grow up to become one of Meher Baba's closest women mandali. From 10 November, Baba began a liquid fast that was to last 5.5 months. Instead of tea for this fast, Mehera suggested coffee, which would stick to his ribs, since it was richer. Baba instructed Mehera to prepare 2 cups of filtered coffee with pure milk each day, and again, not to clean garlic anymore. He also showed her which cup to use as a measure. Before beginning the fast, he told the women, "Adhere to the orders I have given you. Do your duties, eat well, and keep fit." A 9-year-old boy from the village named Lahu was hired to take the coffee up the hill. He was allowed to come inside their compound to collect the coffee in a flask. But first, Mehera cleaned the flask meticulously, taking it completely apart, cleaning and drying it thoroughly, before filling it with exactly 2 cups of coffee and sending it to Baba. From 20 December Besides fasting, Baba began a 2-month seclusion in his crypt room. Because he did not come down the hill during this period, the girls used to feel Baba was preoccupied with the Prem ashram boys. Later on, after Baba stopped fasting on coffee and milk and took only water and weak tea, Aga Ali, one of Baba's favorites among the boys, sometimes came down to fetch Baba's tea. He waited outside the bathroom building while the women prepared it. Mehera remembered that Ali would say things in praise of Baba in a sing-song manner. He would repeat Baba's name and speak about how much the boys loved him. Mehera said, "We used to hear stories of how much the Prem Ashram boys love Baba and how much he loves them, of how he gives them discourses and so on. We heard that things were so nice up the hill. And when we didn't see Baba for many days, we thought, my, Baba is going to forget us soon. We must remind him about us." The girls decided to make garlands for Baba and to send them to him with kaikush rumasa. They were not allowed to order anything from the bazaar, but had to cook whatever was brought. So they could not send for flowers. Walu offered to bring wildflowers from the riverside, even though she had much other work to do. For instance, there was no running water at Meherabad. Walu filled their water tank daily. Walu left Meherabad alone in the evening at 5 or 5:30 p.m. and walked the mile to the river beyond the village. There she gathered single pink and white oleanders in her sari. Later, she used a basket and walked back to Meherabad again. She handed the flowers to the women and then went to her home in the village. After quickly eating and brushing their teeth, and before retiring for the night, the girls sat on a mat on the floor with the flowers spread out before them on a clean white napkin. They worked by the light of a kerosene lantern. There were no electric lights. Each of the gopis made garlands for their beloved, chatting happily as they worked. How long should this garland be? This long? Should it be all pink? Or one pink and one white? Baba will look better in all pink. We were very enthusiastic and serious about it, noted Mehera. We took much care with each garland, diligently measuring the thread for each one ourselves. We had fun doing it all together and picturing how Baba was going to look at it. Only the best flowers were chosen, and there was always some extra. Korkut had the idea to make a crown as well. A small chain of flowers was made for Baba's wrist also, and flower bracelets for his wrist. When they were finished, the garlands and crown were put in a clean red handkerchief and kept damp so that they would not dry out in the night. The next morning, the flowers were sent up the hill along with Baba's coffee, which kaikush rumasa. He approached the door of the crypt room, tomb, where Baba was waiting for him. Baba took the bundle from him, asking what it was. The girls have sent you flowers. Baba had ordered Kaigushru not to touch him, so Baba himself took out a garland and put it on. Then he held up a small circle of flowers and asked, "What is this?" "Baba, it is supposed to be a crown. This too he wore." "Baba must have looked so sweet," said Mehera, "his brown hair open, a white sadra over his fair skin, with the pink garland and crown on. Tell the girls I wore all the garlands," Baba instructed Kaikhosru. We were so happy and proud, we jumped for joy. The next day, too, we got up early and made more and bigger garlands. We felt so important measuring the lengths. We sent them every day for some time. We made Baba think of us. Baba will not forget us. We were so ignorant and jealous of the Prem Ashram boys. They saw Baba daily and we didn't. We wanted him to remember us also. We had no idea that Baba was God, that he knows all and is present everywhere. The women had a lot of work in those days. Even though Baba was in seclusion on the hill, his clothes were sent down for the women to wash. 500 chapatis were to be made daily from 2 to 5 p.m. A temporary kitchen had been built in the bathroom building compound, but it was very hot cooking on wood fires under its tin roof. After finishing their duties, they had their dinner early and then stayed up until midnight making garlands. Once during the Prem Ashram days, a full-grown deer with smallish horns wandered into the women's compound. They gave it to the Mandali, but it got loose and galloped about with the men trying to catch it. The deer got so... More words, please. Excited, it fell into a well by the road. The Mandali rescued it, pulling it out with a rope, and then gave it away, as they could not keep it at Meherabad. On Sunday, 1st January 1928, Baba sent word that the women could come up for darshan as it was Mehera's birthday. Mehera recalled, "We were so happy to come out of the enclosure. That day they bathed, dressed in their best saris, and walked up the hill. It was like an outing after a long time of being inside our compound. It was something new for us to come out. We walked towards the railway line, and everything looked so new and beautiful after being inside all these months. The Duni and Japti, it was like a new world. It felt so nice to walk up and down the hill, to come out into the open, to see open spaces. We were very happy." Baba was seated at the entrance of the crypt room, with his feet extended out the door. Since he was in seclusion, he did not come out of the room. The women bowed to him and offered the flowers they had brought. They sat with him for half an hour, and Baba asked about their health and chatted with them about different things. Then they went back down the hill to their Tata compound. Baba's birthday in February 1928 was celebrated in seclusion as well. Baba was seated outside the crypt room entrance on a small carpet with a cushion at his back. A small shamiana canopy had been erected in front of the room. The men sat on one side facing Baba and the women on the other. Qawwali songs were sung that morning, so the women were with Baba for 2 full hours between 9 and 11. They went down the hill for lunch, but they were allowed to come up again in the evening after dinner to hear their more songs. Baba was so happy, keeping time to the music. Okay. Tina, did you want to read some?
Okay. At the end of February, Baba came out of his seclusion, saying that his object in working with the boys had not been fulfilled, and he would have to repeat the seclusion. The women were overjoyed to see Baba again, but very surprised at what he had related. I wanted 2 cups of coffee, but the 2 cups never came. It turned out that Lahu, the boy hired to take him his flask, would sit in a ditch and drink part of the coffee. On the way up the hill, Baba never sent word down that the coffee was insufficient and remarked humorously that he had thus been having Laju's prasad. During the seclusion, Baba slept on a thin mattress in the narrow space of the crypt, said Mehera. To be shut in there for days while fasting, keeping silence and doing work and not stepping out. How cramped he must have felt. After working, one would run out, talk, sing, and do something else. Baba put himself under such tremendous strain and stress. Padre contended that Baba himself would make excuses not to take anything while fasting. When Baba was fasting, he would ask for something and then change his mind. It would have been better for his health to take something, but he preferred to fast, saying you couldn't say anything to the contrary. He might ask for a large flask of coffee and then say, no, take it away. You didn't put your heart into making it. Why should I drink it? Yes, Baba, take it, we would say. That means you want me to drink something you haven't put your heart into? Did you put your heart into it, or was your mind wandering somewhere while making it? I think I put my heart into it. Go on, take it away. My stomach is not good. Under any excuse, he would turn things so that you took away the coffee. After his seclusion, Baba again ate with the women in the bathroom building. They would talk for 1 or 2 hours while they pressed his feet, and Baba returned up the hill. As mentioned earlier, the women did not sing Baba's Gujarati Arti in those days. It was only sung on Baba's birthday or other special occasions. But the Marathi Arti was sung daily. Is that the one we sing at Arti? I don't know.
We sing the Gujarati.
Okay. In the evening at 7 or 7:30, just as it was growing dark, the Mandali would sing this Arti in the Dharamshala building. Baba would be with the men seated on a carpet. In the bathroom building, the women stood huddled under the ventilator listening. They would repeat the Arti along with the men, picturing the Mandali standing before Baba. We are longing in our hearts for Baba to be with us, Mehera said. We stood we stood on our tiptoes and cocked our ears to listen to the arti over the Tata compound. I felt jealous. Here we women are all alone, and how lucky the Mandali are that Baba is with them. And then one evening, when Baba told the Mandali to sing his arti, he walked over to the women in the bathroom building. Mehera heard footsteps and was startled to see Baba enter. The women never stood around quietly when Baba was present, even though that night the men were still singing arti. "Oh, Baba's come," they repeated to one another. Baba sat with them and allowed Mehera and the younger ones to sit on the carpet and massage his feet by the light of a small hurricane lantern. Baba talked with Daulat Mai and the others, and in the distance they could still hear the Mandali singing the Marathi arti. Afterwards, Khorshid entertained him with a song. "We couldn't believe our eyes," said Mehera. "How Baba knew that we were feeling like that. He was so sweet to come. We were so happy. The Mandali were singing arti, but Baba was with us. To be with Baba in the soft light of the kerosene lanterns was a very nice atmosphere. It was so sweet of Baba that we should not feel left out." Baba, for a number of days, Baba came to our quarters every evening. Then he would say goodnight to us inside. In those days, Baba did not give me any special goodnight embrace as he would in later years. Now, in the night, when I am sitting thinking of Baba, all these little details come to mind. Baba's love is very beautiful. I think we could end there. And here's some pictures that Baba is dressed as Krishna in Toka. And then we're coming up to tug of war in Toka. Any comments?
It's so familiar. What was read, almost like I read it recently. Yeah, very familiar. Like about that little boy drinking lahu, drinking part of Baba's coffee. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty nervy.
yeah, yeah. Oh, Mona is here. I didn't see you.
Recording still on, girls.
Is this still on?
Yeah.
I don't know how to turn it off. Let's see.
Well, we just have to do it over.
Would you want to stop the recording in the cloud? Yeah.